Good morning, everyone. Yes, very good morning to all present. Shiv, Almas, everyone. So we had started with this very interesting, very engaging topic relating to budget. The name is budgetary control. Reason is, what is budgetary control? When you are fixing, establishing budgets, what we learned in the previous class, and now see, budget serves first purpose as a direction for the purpose of planning, for the purpose of giving targets to your different respective managers and the different respective uh, heads. Plus, it also serves as a tool for cross-checking, cross-verifying whether or not your operations are as per budget. So that whenever your operations are deviating from budgets, you can take immediate action to correct it. This is what is budgetary control. So in short, or in very simple words, budgetary control means where you have established budgets, you have fixed budgets, and now you are using those budgets as benchmarks to take corrective action wherever your actions have deviated from the budgeted figures. This is what is budgetary control. Correct? Now, if you all have any particular questions in any concepts, we can take that, or else we'll go to what we were doing in the previous class, that is solving sums on functional budgets. And then we will go to the cash budget, which is one of your master's budget. Yes, Meenu, good morning. Yes, students, anybody having any issue, any doubts, any concerns? Yes, this was our previous. Students, no issues, no doubts. So then may I proceed? Okay. So now see, this is your previous sum that we were dealing with. Now in this sum, I had solved the first part, which was again very interesting because it was different and it is unique. You will find rarely this type of adjustment. And please remember, students, see, we know the structure. In structure, the fill in the blanks, that is the figures and the calculations, would be 90% same. In 10% of the questions, you may get such language driven adjustment, which is not difficult. It is just that you have to align your working, your formation, or any of these type of calculations with the language driven adjustment. So for that only, in the previous class and in every class, I tell you that is very important to read and interpret the question correctly and thoroughly, right? So let us start. So we were dealing with the fourth question where we computed the production budget depending on the data given. So we have dealt with this part of the data. We have dealt with this part of the data and also this part, the production structure. Now, from production, you are now knowing that we have to prepare from production our budget of material, if asked budget of labor, and after that, a master's budget comprising of production cost. Now here we go ahead to the next part of the budget, which is again very unique in this question, that is relating to materials. Now what does this budget says? opening stock of raw materials at the start of the year is 10,000 kgs. End of the year, it is to be maintained at 5,000. Now again, the stock figures are given start and end of the year, no problem. If it is start of the year, it will be opening stock of quarter one, end of the year, closing stock of quarter four. We know this. Then you are given that standard, which helps you to convert your output into input requirements. Now, what is unique and different from all the other sums is that they say that the company's policy is that the company wants to purchase the entire requirement. So whatever is their purchase requirement for the whole year, they want to purchase it only in 3 quarters. So in the first 3 quarters, they have curated their purchase schedule. Now, this is something very different, very unique than what we have studied in the previous all questions, because in the previous questions, our purchase schedule was determined basis our consumption. So whatever was our raw material consumption, on that basis, after adjusting the stocks, adding, closing, and subtracting opening, we used to get the purchase requirement. And it will not follow any this type of percentage. Why? Because that percentage requirement, that purchase requirement of every quarter would be directly linked with the consumption pattern of that quarter. Now, importantly, interestingly, here they want the purchase to be in a different pattern which they have given. So we have to think now in a different manner as to how I can find out this purchase. So for this, again, this part of the question is very important, which says that the company proposes to purchase their entire requirement in the first 3 quarters only in the proportion as below. Now, what is this? This is the percentage or proportion of your annual requirement. So whatever will be the annual purchase. Now, this is where we are decoding the language. Whatever will be the annual purchase, that annual purchase has to be made in this proportion. In other words, to determine my quarterly purchase requirement, I need to first determine the annual purchase requirement, right? Now, how do we find out purchase? We all know the format for purchase budget is consumption plus closing minus opening. This gives me purchase. Now, what I have to determine? I have to determine the annual purchase. So for that, I'll first find out my raw material consumption. Budget, which is very simple. Quarter 1, 2. Anil, I'll answer your question better. 4. Raw material required for production of product. Now they have given that your consumption per unit of product is 2 kgs. So if my first quarter's production is going to be 31,500 into 2 kgs will be my consumption. So in the similar fashion, I can find out consumption for each quarter. In fact, this is what we have been doing. So I get 63,000 kgs in my first quarter as my total raw material consumption. Correct? 76,500 kgs. 84,000 kgs. 1,06,500 kgs. Now, I want to find out annual purchase. Why? Because my quarterly purchase is given in a proportion of annual purchase, as we've just discussed. So we'll now determine our annual purchase. Now, how is annual purchase determined? So if I'm preparing my raw material purchase budget. And this one is annual. Though I require quarterly, but quarterly has to be determined in their proportion. For that, I'll take raw material consumption, again annual, plus desired closing stock of raw material at the end of the year, minus opening stock of raw material at the start of the year. And this will give me my raw material purchase requirement annual. Okay, so formats are same, but here instead of doing this purchase budget quarterly, which we are otherwise doing, I'm doing it annually, and once I get the annual figure, I will bifurcate the annual figure in their proportion. So now, what is my raw material annual consumption? It is total of this. So if you add up these four figures, please kindly do that on the calci, you get your total annual raw material consumption. Okay, Rohan is saying 3,30,000. Okay, one more answer. Almas saying 330. Tanu also saying 330. Perfect. So tell me the other figures. What is my closing stock? What is my opening stock? Correct, na? So 10,000 start of the year, end of the year 5. Okay. Correct. Closing is 5, opening is 10. So what is my annual purchase requirement? It is 3,25,000 kgs. Correct, students? Anybody? Any questions? Any doubts? Students? Any questions? Any doubts? Students? Great. So now once I have got my annual purchase, I will go to the quarterly purchase. So I'm continuing that here. So raw material purchase budget quarterly. Now, since I don't require that opening plus closing wala format, I'm simply putting it like this: quarters, quantity, and also the price, because here they have given us the prices at which this would be purchased, which is changing. So my cost will change. So quarter 1, 2, 3, 4. How much would be the quarterly purchase? So my now annual purchase is fixed at 325. So now I'll take the proportion 30% of 325, correct? So it is 30%, 50%, 20%. Kindly make the calculations. 2, 3, 4. Prices are 2, 3, 4. So 3,25,000, which is annual, multiplied by the percentage. Okay. So I have the figures 1997,500. 65,000. Correct? Great. And when you multiply it by this, you get the cost. So our three requirements are done. One is production, one is raw material consumption budget, raw material purchase budget. Let me give these sub question numbers. 1, raw material consumption is 2, and from here raw material purchase, firstly annual, and that annual got converted to quarterly. Now I go to the most interesting requirement 4, which was called as my priced stores ledger. And they have asked me to do this by the FIFO method. In the last class itself, I had mentioned that what is this? This is nothing but your LIFO-FIFO sum. So quarters, because here I'm not given dates, I'm given quarterly. Particulars, my receipt, my issues, and my balance. Within receipts, quantity, price, value. Within issues, quantity, price, value, and same thing in the balance. Now, I start with the opening balance first. Opening balance, 10,000 kgs was there of raw material, correct? And they had given that the value of this opening balance was rupees 20,000. So we know it means the price is 2, so that the value is 20,000. Now starts each quarter. In each quarter, I have purchase and I have consumption. In quarter 4, I do not have purchase, I only have consumption, right? Now, what are my purchase quantities that are here? So I'll copy it from this quarterly budget. So it is 97,500 at the price of 2. 162,500 at the price of 3. 65,000 at the price of 4. Correct? Clear? Now, I'm not calculating the values, so you are good at that. Now, interestingly, how will I get the issue figures? Issue figures are these consumption figures, because whatever you are consuming of raw material, that is what is getting issued from the stores. So in the first quarter, my consumption is 63,000. So definitely from stores, I would have issued 63,000 to the production departments. Now, we have to follow FIFO, which is our method. Now, interestingly, opening balance price is 2, purchase price is 2. So it makes no difference because I'm carrying all the stocks at 2. So my entire issue of first quarter of 63,000 would be at the price of rupees 2. And then the balance will be this plus this minus this, correct? So what I'm getting, it is 54,500 at 2. Correct me? Just you all keep checking on your calcs. Now, my second month's consumption is 76,500. Now, how this 76,500 will be issued? Now, in my opening, I have 54,200. So 54,200 would be issued at the opening price of 2. But my total consumption is 76,500. So the remaining I have to take from my fresh purchases. So how much will I be taking from my fresh purchases? It would be 22,000 at the rate of 3. So this will make it 76,500, and you will get the total value also, right? Students, I hope you all are getting this. FIFO is what we are doing. So Out of 162,500 purchase, I have consumed 22. So the balance in the second quarter, 140,500, valued at rupees 3. Correct, students? Just keep confirming. What is 44,500 you have given? It is 44 or 54. If you are saying this is 44, but it is 54, why? Opening plus purchase minus consumption. So this is 54. Correct me. I think whoever has given me the figure of 44,500, they have not considered this 10,000 opening. Right, students? Going correct? Now, third quarter, 84,000. Please cross check, and I'm sure you all are calculating parallelly. You have to make the calculations parallelly alongside me. Going good? Now, third quarter consumption is 84,000. I have opening of 140,500, purchases of 65, but I'll not use purchases. My entire 83,000, correct? No, it was 83. Yes, sorry, 84. My entire consumption of 84 will be consumed at the price of the opening balance of this quarter, which is 3. Now, out of 140, I've consumed 84. So my balance is 56,500 out of my opening, and this entire is my balance out of my purchases. So this is my total balance of quarter 3. 1,21,500, whatever is the value that we can calculate. Correct? Now in quarter 4, there are no purchases because our purchase pattern had divided the entire purchase into 3 quarters only. Oh, it is 44 only. You are correct. It's 44 only. Is that okay now? Yes, Julie, I have corrected. See, I want your alertness also parallelly. You have to solve parallelly. You should not completely sit idle. I had mentioned this in the previous class also. You should not be simply just attending the class by sitting. Since we are doing practicals, we are already into the chapter. It is expected that you are parallelly solving. And solving does not only means doing these cross checks. Solving means proper solving like how I'm doing. So my balance at the end of third quarter is 1,11,500. Correct? All calculations corrected till this point. Anybody still has any inputs? Please tell me. Now, my fourth quarter consumption is 1,06,500. How I will be making it? I'll first use 46,500 at the rate of 3. Then I'll be using 60,000 at the rate of 4. So this will be my total consumption of which I'll get the value. And this will be 1,16,500. Sorry, 1,06,500. Correct? And then I get a closing balance of 5,000 at the price of rupees 4. Perfect students, the calculations going good. You all are getting this. So this is your whole question number 4's answer. Anybody? Any doubts? Please put it across. If anything is not clear, if any point you want me to repeat, let me know. Yes, Neha, Nissi, Sanju, Julie, Neeraj, Mahalakshmi. Let me know if anybody has any doubts. Done? Entire question. No questions, no doubts. Pakka? Should I proceed further? Yes. Superb. Now I had given you all one more question for homework, which is this. The question is not difficult. The only thing is having lot many data at one place, and you are supposed to manage this. I hope you all have solved this. So what does the question says? The question is asking you to prepare the budgets. Very good, Tanu, no problem. I always say this for all professional students, whenever you are studying, or rather even in your profession, follow this principle. Being wrong is not wrong. Being nothing is wrong. So if you are solving, if you're understanding something and it is going wrong, that is not wrong at all in profession. Why? Because it means you are learning something new. It means you are elevating in your knowledge and definitely in your profession and future in your success. But if you are not doing anything new, anything different, and no mistakes are getting committed, it means definitely there is something wrong which is going on. So being wrong is not wrong. Being nothing, that is, you're not getting any wrong, no wrong is happening, that is what is wrong in profession. Because in profession you keep learning till end, and especially in today's world where so many new things are coming dynamically, everything is changing, new concepts, new strategies, new formulae, new way of looking at the same issue in all subjects, be it auditing, be it taxation, be it costing, FM, accounting, everything. At our times, things were very constant. We got one concept, one formula that remained same for years. Now, even in costing, new theories are coming. In accounting, you'll say, sir, how can principles of account change? No, debit credit principles will never change, but the reporting is changing. The formats of presentation are changing. In fact, the standards on the basis of which you determine what should be done in accounts, that is changing. So accounts is evolving. Every subject, there is a change. And most importantly, even if there is no change, see, the subjects are so vast. I don't think at any point of time, anybody can say, I have mastered the subject. And even let us say there are some great stalwarts of our profession who have done that. But that is up to that stage of that particular subject. You have to still keep on amending, updating, because the subject is. So committing a mistake is not at all a problem. In fact, it means you are on the right track. So for that, you need to take that challenge, take that, you can say, a special step and initiative that, okay, I'll do something new. I'll try out this problem myself. See, it is not only for exams. It is an attitude for life. If you are not trying out new things, if you're not taking up new challenges, okay, this is something different. This appears to be difficult. Actually, The difference between being different and being difficult is not understood by students. Anything which is not fitting in your comfort zone, you find it difficult. But that is not difficult. It may be simply outside the comfort zone. It may be a different type of a question, like this one, or even the previous one which we solved. We immediately tag it as difficult. We immediately tag it कि मुझे नहीं आएगा. Sorry, that is not the right approach. In fact, whenever anything new or challenging comes, your approach should be, Arey, wow, chalo, now it is going to be interesting. So try to change your attitude for looking at different things, challenging things as wow. Wow is in what? Not in getting the right answer. The problem is you are equating wow with getting right answers. You are equating wow in life with getting success, but that may not happen always. So have this approach in life, have this attitude in life that yes, wow will be what is challenging. Wow will be what is outside my scope, my four corners of how I am living. That challenge, that different should be wow. And the moment your attitude changes, you make these things wow, see the growth, the manifold growths, the growth in multiples, which we always say in geometric progression rather than arithmetic progression. So your growth will be in geometric progression, but that is when you consider different and challenging things as wow. So please have that attitude, and that attitude you can build from here by having that attitude firstly for solving your academic questions. So now, whenever you are dealing with any subject, any paper, have this approach that when you read a new concept, maybe not able to understand, wow, it's okay. Not understanding is not a problem because you have so many mentors around you. You'll get understood today, tomorrow. But if you're not taking that challenge, that will be a problem. Fine. Okay. So, yes, Anil, first I'll answer your Anil's question, which he had asked, but since we are solving that question, I did not want to interrupt in between. So Anil has a question. Sir, what is the difference between standard figures and budgeted figures? Now see, conceptually, standard and budgets are different things. Conceptually, what is the difference that we'll understand? But then why there is a confusion? Because it is also appearing to be same, and that is where the challenge is. Now, one thing which is common between the two is both are estimates, estimates about future. So this is common, but what is different in both these estimates is that budget is expectation of what you are going to do. I'm putting in very bare language, not in the technical language of the language. Otherwise, if I put use the technical language, you'll not understand the meaning. So it is also expectation. It is also an estimate, but of what you are going to do. And this is also an estimate. This is also what you are expecting, but it is expecting of what you should do. So what you are expecting, you will be capable of doing, and what is expected you should do. That is where the difference between standard and budget lies. So standard is something which is precision, what you should do. It is also estimate. Given, let us say 1000 pieces have to be manufactured. Now for 1000, one can be budget, one can be standard. Standard will be 1000 should be produced by using 2 kgs per unit. So it should be producing 2000 kgs of raw material only. It should be produced with 5000 hours of labor only, because 2 kgs per unit of raw material and 5 hours per unit of labor is what is the standard for making this product. However, when I'm doing budget, my past experience shows, now see, budgets are prepared using past experience. So my past experience shows that, acha, I'm using 2.1 kgs per unit of my product as my raw material. So if I'm drawing the budget for the same 1,000 units, I will say it will be 2,100 kgs of raw material. My labor is 4.7 hours per unit. So for 1,000 units, it will be 4,700 hours. This is budget. So conceptually, both are different. Now we come to practically what happens, or what is you will see even in these sums. We are preparing budgets using the standard set. So my standard is 1 unit requires 2 kgs. I'm taking the same standard to determine the budget. So if for this 1,000 I have to prepare a budget, I'm multiplying it by 2 kgs, which is the standard. And then I'm saying, okay, 2,000 kgs of raw material is my budgeted requirement. Now, practically, standards and budgets are different or same depending upon, I repeat, depending upon what is the policy of the company. First, my policy is I will go by my past experience and I will draw the budgets using past experience. Then my budgets will not match with standard because it is not based on standards. Two, I will draw my budgets taking the standard consumptions given. In that case, your budget will appear as standard. Why? Because it is taking the standard set. Now, both these approaches are used practically. First approach, you go by your past experience for preparing your budget. Two, you take the standard set for preparing your budget. Both are acceptable. Now, there is a technical difference, or one more difference in standard and budget that you will realize when you are in the standard costing chapter. That in standard costing chapter, when they talk about standard, they are talking about the standard cost of actual output. It means what should be the cost for the actual output which is produced. Whereas the budget that we are drawing for the future period's expectation. So I can say standards or standard cost is standard cost of actual output. So whatever actual output you have already done, now in standard costing chapter, to find out the variances, you find out the standard cost of that actual output. But budgeted cost, and as we are seeing, budgets are drawn using standard, so it is a standard cost, but it is a standard cost of budgeted output, because budget are prepared for future activity. Now, as I said, practically people are preparing budgets using standard figures. Standard figures means per unit standard figures. And in all your practical examples, what we are solving in any chapter like this chapter, or even in standard costing chapter or marginal costing chapter, we follow this assumption that budgets are prepared using standard figures. In that case, budgeted costs will be standard costs. Why? Because it is derived using the standard set per unit. But it is derived for your total budgeted output. So budgeted cost is standard cost for the budgeted output, and standard cost will mean standard cost but for actual output. So this will be the mathematical difference between standard and budgets, but technically both these figures are derived using the same per unit standard as what you are seeing in all these sums. So Anil, I hope your doubt is completely satisfied. Priyanshi, yes. See, you can say these are synonyms in the sense what? As I said, both are prepared using the same per unit standard. So to that extent, both are standard cost. As I've already written in my sentence, both are standard cost, but they are standard cost of different outputs. So when I want to find out variance, what is variance? The difference between what I should have done and what I have done. It means what should have been done is standard. So I take my actual output for which I have done something already. Now I find out the standard cost of that actual output so that I can now compare that standard with actual cost and to determine the variation or variance. Is this fine? Okay. So in this question, I'm supposed to prepare quantitative production, material usage and purchase budget from the figures given for the following period. What it says, material consumption per unit. You require material P. The price of material P is 3 per kg and of material Q is 2 per kg. Now, how much is my requirement of both these materials? So I have two types of products also. For each product, the requirement is given separately. So for my product A, how much of material P is required? 2 kgs. And for product B, it is required 4 kgs. This is the standard set per unit. Similarly, for product A, I require 3.125 kgs of material Q and 1 kg. I am requiring material Q for product B. You are given stocks of products and stocks of material. This is appearing to be missing. It is not missing because they have given language adjustment. So in this same sum, you find both types of sums. One where stocks are given ready-made in quantity terms and where for stock there is some language given. What is that language given? The company wishes to operate a JIT system. As an initial procedure, it wants to maintain the stock of material. Now this is the language adjustment. How much is the stock they are expecting to maintain? They want to maintain stock which will be equal to 2 months of your consumption. Now they are expecting or assuming that the working days in a month would be 28. So on the basis of 28 working days in a month, we will be able to determine how much should be my stock for 2 days consumption. Correct? So the sum actually is simple, not difficult at all. The only thing is there are different multiple figures which you should be able to balance. So if I have to draw this budget, so I start with my production budget, particulars, product A, product B. You have the budgeted sales plus closing minus opening. This is of product, so I'll take opening closing stock of finished goods. So my budgeted sales are 15,000, 17,500. My stock quantities are closing 1750 and 3375. Opening is 750 and 875. So I get my production budget quantity. This is 16,000 units and this will be 20,000 units. Just cross check. Right? Now I will draw my raw material consumption and purchase budget. Now, as we had discussed in the previous class, the columns will depend upon the item for which the budget is prepared. Here, the budget is prepared for production. So the columns were of products. Here, the budget is prepared for raw materials, consumption and purchase. So my columns would be of material, material P, material Q. Okay. Periodicity is not required because we are given data of only 1 month and we have to prepare it only of 1 month. Had the same thing be monthly or quarterly, multiple columns depending upon the periodicity would have come. So particulars, raw material required for production of. One is product A and then product B. How much of product A is to be produced in this month? 16,000. How much of product B is to be produced? 20,000. Then I'll take the figures of raw material, which is for product A, it is 2 kgs and 3.125. 2 kgs, 3.125. Similarly, for product B, it is 4 kgs and 1 kg. So this will be my total raw material consumption in kgs. Now to this, I add my closing stock of raw material. So I'm adding closing stock and I'm deducting opening stock. Now opening stock figures are given, closing stock language is given. This is the opening stock, 12,000, 9,000. Get total raw material purchase quantity, multiplying it by purchase price, you will get total raw material purchase in value terms. Okay. So Tanu has given me the total raw material consumption figure as 1,12,000 and 70,000. I'll request others to please confirm. 1,12,000 and 70,000. Please confirm. So 16 2s are 32, 24s are 80, 80 plus 32 is 112. Okay. 112 and 70. Okay, so Prem has confirmed that is same. Now comes the language adjustment. What is that language adjustment? Okay. The question says, how much raw material stock you wish to maintain? It should be equal to 2 days consumption. And our working days are 28 in this month. Now, it means this consumption that you have derived is of 28 days. I'm just writing here because I don't have much space there. So if this is for 28 days, how much would be for 2 days? So this figure divided by 28 multiplied by 2. This figure divided by 28 multiplied by 2. That will be your answer for closing stock. I'm just plugging in my charger, 1 minute. So people have given me answers. So this I'm given the answer as 8,000 closing stock, and this is 5,000 closing stock. So once I get this, 1,08,000 is my purchase quantity for this, and 66,000 is my purchase quantity for this. Is this clear, everyone? Students, everybody understanding this? Good. So, cash budget. Have you done this in your FM subject? Yes, students, if I'm not wrong, cash budget. Last time also I had asked somebody inform me that I think if I'm remembering, recalling, this is done in your FM subject. Okay. Shiv is asking from where you take questions. So why this question, Shiv? Since you all have done cash budget, I will not solve the whole sum because that will consume my time, but I'll just give you the format which you are sure. So cash budget, again, it may be monthly, quarterly, depending upon the data. So again, following my same example, I'm assuming you are preparing quarterly budgets. This may be monthly, generally cash budgets are given monthly. So what is cash budget? It is simply your cash plus bank account put in a vertical format. So just visualize, we have our ledger account of cash bank. They may be separate there, but you have to merge, and whatever is there in T form, that is debit credit form, you have to put it in vertical form. So first we have the opening balance. In this you'll add receipts. Now the receipts could be from different sources. One is from cash sales and the other is collection from debtors. Then from sale of your assets, which may be land, building, etc. Then from sale, or now sale is not the right word, I'll say issue of your own shares, debentures, bonds, or sale of your investment, that is the shares, debenture, bonds you had purchased of other companies. Correct? Now, in case you have raised the loan, before that, in shares, you may be given the allotment amount or the first call money or the second call money, etc. And again, you may be given with premium. So all these are your accounting adjustments. Now, besides this, my receipts could be, if I have raised a loan, so loan received. So the loan amount is given to you. Further, your receipts could be of what? Your receipts could be from some miscellaneous incomes, like non-operating incomes in the form of interest, dividends, etc. That is your return on all these above investments. So these are commonly the items that will be your receipt. You will make a total of opening balance and all receipts. Then from this I have my payments. Payments are for purchases, cash obviously, payment to creditors, and then payment for different expenses like wages or like overheads, etc. Then redemption of your shares, debentures, bonds. So you have to pay back, or you have purchased some assets, or you have made investments, or your loan is repaid, obviously with interest. Besides this, your finance cost, that is the interest, dividend that you have to pay. So all these are the common. So I'm sure you all have done the same thing in your FM cash budget. So I'm not taking a practical example over here because I want to teach you something new, something different. This is okay? Anil is saying, sir, here in costing, there is no concept of cash budget, right? Yeah, you can say so, because see, it is, the name is cash budget. That is why we are considering it here, but mainly it is from the FM chapter only, FM subject only, because that is where, see, cash budget is basically for your short-term capital requirement planning. That is where you are preparing cash budgets, because that helps the finance manager determine what would be my short-term loan requirements or short-term finance requirement. And that is why this is majorly part of your FM chapter. But since it is budget, It may be asked here also, but it is completely the same. Correct? Okay. See, Shiv, you will not find these questions in your books because I'm not taking the questions which are already there in your module, because that you can always solve from the module. I try to hunt for questions from either some past exam or from other books or from other exams besides our ICAI exams, so that I can give you variety, I can give you different approaches, right? And whatever is there in the module, obviously that you can always solve at your end and come back to me with your doubts. Now, I go back to my first day. We had discussed that there are two types of budget, fixed, flexible. Now in fixed, what we have done till now, Anil beta, this is uploaded long back. You are late. This sheet which you are seeing on the screen is uploaded long back. I'm sure others have got this sheet. If not, let me know. So on the first day, that is day before yesterday, in my first session, I said that we prepare a budget first by taking one quantity of sales or any figure like it may be anything which is your key budget factor or your main limiting factor. We presume in this chapter that it is sales. So one sales quantity, and from that we derive all the budgets. Now the budgets are functional, which may be sales budget, production budget, raw material budget, wages budget, overheads budget, or it may be masters, in which we have done one small masters budget, that is production cost budget. What is a master budget? Summary. Now, the other concept is having budgets for different levels of activity, because especially in today's scenario, you cannot rely on one level of activity because so many things are dynamic which are affecting your business. So if things factors change, definitely your budgets, your figures will change, and you have to make necessary provision for the same. So this is where the concept of flexible budget comes in. Okay. So now what we are starting with is flexible budgets. Now in this type of sum, what will happen? These are all master's budget. Why? Because when you're doing flexible, you cannot spend time in preparing different level budgets for each function separately, because that is lot time consuming. I'm talking about practical life, not your exams only. So that is why in practical life, we take one quantity, we prepare all the functional budgets for that one quantity, which is the fixed budget. And then while preparing master's budget, which is your income statement budget, you take multiple levels, and for each level you find out all the figures in that master's budget. So automatically the management comes to know what if means, what if my sales is 20 lakhs, what would be my cost, what would be my profit? What if my sales is only 10 lakhs, what would be my cost, what would be my profit, and so on. So flexible budgets format is something like this. Generally, as I said, it is master's budget only, and obviously it is annual. So there is no question of columns for periodicity. Here directly the columns is for levels of activity. So let us say you are asked to determine your budgets at 50% level, 80% level, 100%. And for this, let us say 50% is 50,000 units. So 80% will be 80,000 units, and 100% will be 1 lakh units. Now, what is the format? Here, there are three possibilities. First is where income statement, the master budget is of income statement. Then you have sales, and from sales, you deduct your total cost, which will be the balance would be income. However, when we are deducting cost, we do not deduct cost by simply putting down material, labor, overheads, etc. We generally put up this cost in parts, like we take variable cost, we take semi-variable cost, and we take. So what is required in this part of your budgets, that is flexible budgets, is you have to classify your cost into the categories of variable, semi-variable, fixed. Now at times, in some sums, they don't want it in semi-variable. Now when they don't want it in semi-variable, but you may be having semi-variable, in that case, we split the semi-variable, and out of semi-variable, the variable portion is included here, and out of semi-variable, the fixed portion is included here. In that case, you'll have only two categories of cost, that is variable and fixed. So the format is broadly this, but there could be internal variations depending upon requirement of the sum. So your cost could be divided into three categories: variable, semi-variable, fixed, or it could be divided only two categories: variable and fixed, where the semi-variable would be split and it could be put in the respective parts. Now, this is for income statement budget. Now, obviously, where you are splitting the cost into variable and fixed only, then they will also ask you to first find out contribution, which I'm sure by now you all know. Like how in accounts we have profits in two stages. We first find GP, then we find NP. Similarly, in costing, you can find out your cost profits in two stages. Firstly, from sales, when you deduct all variable cost, the difference which is left is what is called as contribution. And from this contribution, when you deduct your fixed cost, then what you get is your final net profit. So when in the sum, the flexible budgets ask you to compute your profits, then in that particular case, and where the bifurcation is only variable and fixed, they will ask you to determine your profits in two stages. One is contribution and one is your net profit, right? Then another type of flexible budget would be your flexible cost budget, where the sales are not given. In that particular case, you are required to determine your total cost. Again, for determining total cost also, the heads or the categories will be variable cost, fixed cost. Again, if required, they want a separate semi-variable cost category. You'll have three categories. And then the total of all these three categories would be your total cost. So these are small variations in the answer format, depending upon what is asked in the question. I hope this is clear with everyone. What is flexible budgets? What is the format? Anybody, any questions or doubts? One is saying basically flexible budget is budgeted cost sheet. How come, beta? It need not be your cost sheet always. It can be your income statement where you start with sales and you deduct these costs. Most important, okay, you can say, sir, in cost sheet also we have done the same. It is okay. I'm not denying. But calling this as cost sheet may not always be correct, because here it may not always cover total cost. It may cover only production cost. So flexible budget can be prepared for any master's budget, which may be your only production cost budget, which can be put in flexible by showing at different levels, or it can be your total cost budget also, where they require total cost at different levels, or it can be your income statement budget, where they will require your profit at different levels. So you can call it as cost sheet, similar to cost sheet, but I believe it is slightly conceptually different. Yes, Anil. So flexible budget is basically drawn to understand what if. What if means, see, now I'm going to run my business in the next coming year. Now in the next year, since there are a lot of uncertainties, Ukraine war, then the tariff problem with this, let us say China comes up with something new. There is some new issue domestically, internationally, which affects my business. So I want to know, okay, I'm going by this sales figure of 5 lakhs, assuming that is my budgeted sales. So I'm okay that my team has given me the target sales of 5 lakhs. But what if the sales are falling below 5 lakhs, whether I'll be able to break even, whether I'll be making profits, whether I need to make some precautionary arrangement for finance. This is what we want to know. That is what is what if analysis. So yes, Anil. So we call it as what if analysis. Tanu, again, you are saying it is similar to FM. Okay, to some extent, because when I want to determine my finance, obviously FM people will come and take your flexible budgets only so that they can also take these figures to determine the finance in what if. That is, what if the sales are less because of some changes in national, international scenario, your sales are affected, because of which definitely you may not be able to uh, pay out your entire cost and you need some finance. So even finance people may be using this data. So that's what I'm saying. It is a very simple generic concept that is determining your budgets at different levels of activities. Fine. So good. You all are getting the feel of flexible budget even without solving. Now, what is the most important part in flexible budget? The only important part dealing with the calculation is being able to first identify which costs would be these three categories. Now in this, when I'm saying identify, means you should know that, okay, material cost is variable, labor cost is variable. Let us say administration overheads is fixed, factory overheads and selling overheads is semi-variable. So this is identification. Now at times in the question, they've already given this category. So you need not identify, you already know which category is what. If it is not given, then you have to even identify. How to identify that also we'll see. So first step is identifying which cost is under which category. That is, which cost is variable, which cost is semi-variable, which cost is fixed. Then the second thing in flexible budgets is computing. So once I've identified, okay, this is variable, now I need to compute that cost at all the levels. So whatever cost I've determined as variable, I'll compute it for all the levels. Similarly, whatever are fixed, I need no computation because at all levels it will remain same. Main calculation is this. Those costs which we have identified as semi-variable, main calculation in this whole flexible budget according to me is of the semi-variable. See, variable is simple. If for 50,000 is this much, how much will be for 80, how much will be for 1 lakh? It is simple. Fixed cost, no calculation generally required because it remains constant. All calculations are for semi-variable. That is what we have to understand. Is this clear? So two things in calculation. One, identifying, which in many sums is already they have given their categorization that this is variable, this is fixed, this is semi-variable. So no need of identification at your end. And after identification, whether given or not given in the sum, the second step is computing those costs. So let me take you to a practical example on this to understand. Now we will take up this first question, that is question number 6, where you need to do the identification also and then computation also. So I'm giving you 5 minutes. I'm taking a small break of 5 minutes. Kindly read the question till then. Yeah. Now, this question, you have to do identification also. See, what is the question? It says Galaxy Private Limited is engaged in production of certain TV parts. Its 100% capacity means 10,000 units. Now the data starts from here. The rate of production per hour is 10 units. So the speed of your labor is that in 1 hour, they are able to produce 10 units. Then the standards for material is here. Material is directly given as in rupees. So it is rupees 2 per unit. Labor cost is rupees 8 per hour. So see the difference. Be very clear with what the data is. So material cost is directly given per unit of output, but labor cost is given per hour. And that is why this data is given, where you will be able to determine the number of hours, so that hours multiplied by the rate, you will get the cost. Fine. Now you are required to compute what? Production cost for 50%, 80%, 100%. Important. Your flexible budget is for determining cost, but not total cost, only production cost. Now what they want you to categorize it into fixed, semi-variable, variable. And as you can see here in the data, they themselves have not done the identification. So we also have to do the identification. So first, you have to find out the cost, bifurcating it into these three categories. And then you have to show the overhead absorption rate per unit. That is at 100% capacity, which is easy. Now, our main challenge is identification. How to do that? Tell me. Students, tell me, how will you identify which cost variable, which semi-variable? Okay, Priyanshi has given me one answer. You're right, Rohan. But I first wanted to know what would be your approach. How will you determine which one is variable, which one is semi-variable? See, how do you identify? In some other question like this, the next question just I'm showing, this identification will not be required because it is already identified and given that these two costs are semi-variable, these are semi-variable, these are fixed. But here in this question, this identification is not done. Now in this particular case, you should not be misguided by the names. You should not presume that, okay, if it is this, it will be variable. If it is this, it will be fixed. Don't presume. See, as chartered accountants, we should always understand one thing, that the data is the most crucial thing in any domain, be it costing, be it FM, be it taxation, be it accounting. And when we talk about data, which is the starting point of any of our computation, any of our professional advices, please do not presume. Whatever data you want, you ask your client. You try to crunch that data from the given balance sheets, from the given cost statements, or you can put a questionnaire to your client or their respective department staff to get that data. Don't presume. Presumption is not, I will say, allowed. If I'm allowed to use this word, presumption is not allowed, because if you presume, it can be disastrous. Now, I need not presume here. Why? Because some maths, I'll say costing maths, because one maths is the dreadful maths which you faced, which you wanted to skip up to school, and then later on even in 11th, 12th and CA foundation. So I'm not talking about that maths. Here I am saying costing maths, which you all know till now what type of maths we require in costing. Observe this. They have given you the production units. Two levels are given where the production is 6,000 units, the production is 9,000 units. Now in this relation, observe these cost figures. Salaries have remained same despite of change in production, so fixed. Power has changed, so definitely it cannot be fixed. But has it changed proportionately? Proportionately means if for 6,000 it is 3,000, then for 9,000 it should have been 4,500 if it was to be fully variable. But it is not 4,500, it is less. It means that power is varying but not fully. So salaries are fixed because they are not varying. Power is varying but not exactly in proportion, so it is semi-variable. Now go to consumable stores. For 6,000 it is 3,000. So how much it should be for 9? It should be 4,500 and it is exactly 4,500. It means it is varying along with the output. It is changing exactly in proportion of output. So this becomes variable. Same lines repairs, it is changing, but not in the ratio of output. So it is semi-variable. See, this is how you identify. No presumption, please. As chartered accountants, we should never presume facts and data. Shop labor, check whether it is varying in the proportion of output. Yes, so variable. Depreciation, not varying at all, fixed. Inspection, it is varying, but is it varying in the proportion of output? No, it is varying, but not exactly in the proportion of output, semi-variable. So see, this type of identification would be required, but only in those sums where nothing is specified. But as you can see, in other sums, majorly they have done the identification themselves. So when they are doing the identification themselves, your role is easy. But when they have not done the identification, your role is slightly extra. Now, once I've done this, now I'll go to the budgeting, which requires me to have all the three categories. So, flexible production cost budget. In this sum, 50% is 5,000, correct? 80% is 8,000 and 100% is 10,000 units. Now, they want it in these three categories: fixed, semi-variable, variable. So fixed expenses B, semi-variable expenses, and C. Now in fixed, what are the costs that we have identified? One is salaries, one is depreciation. So salaries, total, correct? Variable, I'll take variable first. Why? Because it is easy. I can do it immediately. So let me take a variable. See, this is how you should solve your exam sums also. Now, in variable, I identified some of the cost here as variable, but you should also remember that some cost data is given here. So this is where minute reading of question and being attentive is very important. You are given something relating to material cost, also direct material, and even relating to direct, which is fully variable. So I should not forget those costs. And then remaining cost, I can take from here. What are my variable cost? Consumable stores, shop labor. Two are variable, correct? And then remaining are semi-variable, power, repairs, inspection. Total of this, and then I will get my total production cost, correct? Now, in exams, you should first solve these two categories. Why? Because they are straightforward. It will not consume your time at all. And even if, let us say, you are falling short of time in exams, by solving this, you ensure those many marks because we have step markings. Don't think if you have not found out the total cost or the final figure, you will not get marks. That is not the case. In our exams, we get marks on step marking basis, right? So, see, salary is 3,000 fixed and depreciation is 2,500 fixed. So salary 3, 3, 3, 2,500. So it is 5, 5. Then variable. What was given for direct material? Direct material. What was given? It was saying that direct material cost is ₹2 per unit, straightforward. So no calculations as such required. It will be simply units into ₹2. So how much are my units? It is 5, 8, 10. So it will be into 2. So 5,000 into 2, 8,000 into 2, and 10,000 into 2. Done. Complete. Then comes direct wages. Here, some calculation required because first they have given the rate of production. So per hour, you are producing 10 units. And then the labor cost, which is given per hour. So ₹8 is not per unit. You have to multiply it by hours. But how will I determine my hours? So I'll determine my hours by this units upon 10. Because what is 10? In 1 hour, you produce 10 units. So let us say if my production here is 5,000 units, when I divide it by 10, I get 500. What is 500? 500 is my hours. And then multiplying is by ₹8, which is per hour labor cost. So when I divide 5,000 by 10, I get the hours which I will be requiring, which is 500, and 500 hours into 8, 4,000. Similarly, can determine for 8 and for 10. So for 8,000 units divided by 10, it is 800 hours. 800 hours into 8, 6,400. 10,000 units divided by 10 is 1,000 units. 1,000 units into 8. Correct. Now, what I have identified as variable consumable stores is 3,000 or 6,000 units. So for 6,000 units, you are spending 3,000. So for 5,000, 2,500. For 8,000 and for 10,000. correct? Now, shop labor. Shop labor variable is 1,500 rupees for 6,000. So if for 6,000 it is 1,500, for 5,000 it will be 1,250. For 8,000 it will be 2,000. And for 10,000 it will be 2,500. So I've computed two things, simple, clear, straightforward. Any questions up to this point, students? Any doubts or questions? No doubts? Great. Now we go to the most interesting part, that is working note, which is for computation of semi-variable expenses. Now, in the question, I have given one figure of semi-variable cost. Now, we all know semi-variable is that cost which is comprising of some portion of variable, some portion of fixed. Now, the main point that we have to understand is I need to determine how much of these costs are variable, how much of these are fixed. So what are the semi-variable expenses? I have power, I have repairs, I have inspection. So power, repairs, inspection. First, I will try to find out the variable cost component. How do I find out variable cost? It is by this formula, change in the total cost upon change in units. Because here you are given the data for two levels. Since the data is for two levels, we can find out the variable and the fixed portion, means we can split it. Anil, but I did not get your question. You are saying, so you want to know how to identify or you want to know how to compute? Identification, I've already explained that semi-variable are those expenses which are changing at different levels, but they are not changing in proportion to your output. So my output changed from 6,000 to 9,000. My expense does not change in that ratio. So simple, I already explained this, but Anil, we started this sum by first identification. So I said for 6,000, if the expense is 3,000, which is given in the question, then for 9,000, if it is variable, it should have been 4,500. But these three expenses did not exactly become 4,500 or not in that ratio. That if for 6,000 it is this much, then for 9,000 it has to be this much. It did not increase in that ratio. It increased but slightly. That is how we identified it is not completely variable. Since it has changed, it cannot be completely fixed. Hence, we concluded it is semi-variable. We already did this identification, Anil, at the start. Okay. Now, by this formula, I will split each of these expense into the variable component. And once I get the variable component, I can find out the fixed component also. Now, for power, what are the figures given? So power 3,000 and 3,900 is given, and the quantities are 6,000 and 9,000. So we need to take the change of expenses in the numerator. So it is 3,900 minus 3,000, which is change in expense in the numerator, and 9,000 units minus 6,000 units, which is the change in your output. Now, when I divide this, the answer that I get is my variable cost per unit, which is coming to 30 paise. So rupees 3 per unit. Same thing I'll do for repairs, 4,000 and 4,600. So 4,600 minus 4,000, this is the difference in cost, upon 9,000 units minus 6,000 units, which is the units. So again, the difference 600 upon 3,000, correct? So it is 20 paise. Please cross confirm using your calculators. Then inspection 1000 and 1300. Okay. So it is coming to, now once you have identified the fixed portion, variable portion, now we will compute the fixed core portion. How? Total cost minus the variable cost. And how do we get the variable cost? It is units multiplied by the variable cost per unit. So the total cost, you can take one of these two. So I have 3,900 also for 9,000, or I have 3,000 also for 6,000. I can take any one, whichever I want. So let us say I'm taking 3,900, which is my total cost for 9,000 units, right? What is the formula? Total minus variable. So 3,900 minus, I want variable cost of 9,000 units, which will be 9,000 into the per unit variable cost, which we have determined. This will be my fixed portion. So 3,900 minus 9 threes are 27. So I get 1,200. Same thing I do here. I'll take again this, which is 4,600 my total cost. 4,600 my total cost, minus variable portion for 9,000 is 9,000 units into 0.2. So 4,600 minus 1,800. Correct? Correct. So 2,800. Then same thing here. 1,300 is my cost. Minus this is for 9,000 units. And 1. So 9,000 into 0.1 is 900 minus 1,300. So it is 400. Correct? Now, by this, I have done the splitting. I have separated the semi-variable into variable and fixed. Now what I'll do is, I'll find out the total semi-variable expense by taking the variable portion and adding the fixed portion. Now in my answer, I have to find it out at 50%, at 80%, at 100%. So I will first find it out for power. Variable plus fixed is my semi-variable expense. Now variable will be units into, what was the per unit of power? It is 0.3. So 5,000 units into 0.3. This is the variable portion, and fixed portion we have computed as 1,200. So this will be same at all levels. 0.3, 0.3. I'll multiply it by the 8,000 units here. I'll multiply it by the 10,000 units here. Now, adding up these two gives me my total semi-variable cost. So 1,500 plus 1,200, 2,700. 2,400 plus 1,200, 3,000 plus 1,200. So This is how I get my semi-variable of power, which is 2,700, 3,600, and 4,200. Now, same I will repeat like how I determined for power. I determine for the remaining two, that is for my repairs and for my inspection. Variable cost units into what was the variable portion of repairs? It was 20 paise per unit. Now for repairs, now for inspection. Variable cost units into 0.1. Correct. Now fixed portions are 2,800 and 400. So 2,800 and 4. Correct. Variable portions are 5,000 into 0.2, 8,000 into 0.2, 10,000 into 0.2. So this is 1,000 plus 2,800, 1,600 plus 2,800, and 2,000 plus 2,800. Correct? Please cross confirm. Good. Those were solving parallelly. Superb. So 500 plus 400, 800 plus 400, 1,000 plus 400. Correct, students? So I'll post this, my final workings here. So repairs is 3,800, 4,400, 4,800. And inspection is 900, 1,200, 1,400. Correct? So then you can find out the totals like this for all. And then total of these totals will be my final answer. Correct, students? But please correct, check fixed cost of power. But according to me, it is 1,200 only fixed cost of power. Please check and confirm if something is not correct at my end. I'm getting it as 1,200 only. Sure, students, give me the total production cost at all the three levels. I've given you the entire working. So find out. Tell me, sir. No, no issue, sir. I'm waiting for the students to do this final calculation. So I'm getting few answers. Good. So two answers I've got, one from Julie, one from Priyanshi. Others 36. So I'm now posting the grand total figures which I've got from Priyanshi and Julie. Okay, Tanu is also providing some figures. Sunil is also giving some figures. So it is 3650. Then 43,100 and 51,400. Okay, Jaindra has also given 43,100 and 51,400. Good, Sneha. Good, Jaindra, Neeraj, Tanu, Sunil, Priyanshi, Julie. Very good. Yes. Now, but this is not the end because there is one more question left in this question itself. That is, you are required to find out the overhead absorption rate. This they are asking only at 100%. Now, this rate has to be computed per unit. Now, how do you compute your overhead absorption rate? If you'll recall, overhead absorption rate is what? Total overheads upon the base. Now, what is the base over here? So it will be your total production overheads upon the base is units. Now, I need to do it only at 100% in this sum. So I have to only go by this. But remember, students, this is not the figure of overheads. It is the figure of total production cost. And I only want production overheads. Now, if you can understand the difference between production cost and production overheads is, we only want the figure of overheads, but here these two figures are of prime cost because they are direct material, direct labor. So I cannot take this total, which is of 100% because this total is of the production cost of 100%. And I only want production overheads. So if I remove from this production cost the direct material and direct labor, what will be left with me is only production overheads, and then dividing this by the units. How much is my units at 100%? It is 10,000 units. So dividing this by 10,000 units will give me my final answer, which is my overhead absorption rate. Correct? So give me this answer. What is my overhead absorption rate at 100%? Perfect, Neeraj, Prem, Priyanshi. It is 2.34 per unit. Malakshmi, is it 34 or 64? But I think there is a typo error at your end. Yes, Almas, correct. Good. Correct, students? Any questions here? Yes, Priyanshu, that is common. See, this is where everybody commits mistake, because what happens? We are not reading the question carefully, especially in the haste of completing the sum fast. We are missing on the crucial aspects. So this is where we have to be very, very precise, minute, and very focused. बेटा 2800 कैसे लिया? कैसे लिया बेटा? अभी मैंने बताया, आपका ध्यान नहीं था शायद पवन, क्योंकि हमें सिर्फ ओवरहेड्स अब्जॉर्प्शन रेट चाहिए, जबकि मेरे पास जो फिगर है 51,400 वो मेरे टोटल प्रोडक्शन कॉस्ट का फिगर है। टोटल प्रोडक्शन कॉस्ट में डायरेक्ट कॉस्ट भी है, जैसे डायरेक्ट मटेरियल, डायरेक्ट लेबर। सो मैंने टोटल प्रोडक्शन कॉस्ट में से डायरेक्ट मटेरियल, डायरेक्ट लेबर सब्ट्रैक्ट कर दिया यहाँ पे। ये यहाँ से आया मुझे, ये रहा डायरेक्ट मटेरियल कॉस्ट 20,000, डायरेक्ट लेबर कॉस्ट 8,000, 28,000 माइनस किया तो जो बचेगा वो मेरा प्रोडक्शन ओवरहेड्स बचेगा। करेक्ट पवन बेटा? करेक्ट अनिल? You both have same doubts. Should we proceed? Now, a next type of sum. This sum is easy because the first part is given. What is the first part? Bifurcation is given. So you are supposed to find out or work out the flexible budgets on the basis of following data available from the cash records. So this is a cash budget, you can say, given to you. Now this is what is required maybe by the finance people also. So following data is from the cash records. Determine the overhead absorption rates at 3 levels. Now they have already given 80%, so we basically need to find out 70, 90 only. They have given us bifurcation, and for the purpose of finding out overhead absorption rate, they have given us the labor hours. So this question is comparatively easy. So flexible cost budget at 70, 80, 90. They want the categorization as variable, variable, semi-variable, fixed, and it is overheads. Use the same terminology. Now, same rule. We'll first do variable and fixed, then we'll go to semi-variable. Now, they have already given you the data of 80%. Now, in variable, they have indirect material, indirect labor. Indirect material, indirect labor. What are the amounts? 144 and 64, and this is for 80%. Semi-variable. Power, repair, maintenance. So it's debris, insurance, others. ठीक है, चलो. So first You do it at least for variable and fixed. Semi-variable, you may start doing it. We will check together how to do it. Chalo, start something from your end. Okay. So Priyanshi has given me variable overheads total. That is good. 182, 208, 234. Now, simple. For 80%, if it is 144, then for 70, how much? For 80, if it is 64, for 70, how much? Same thing is for 90. Correct. Then fixed, there is nothing to be done much. Fixed, you have to simply copy paste. Depre is 36, insurance is 21, others is 108. 36, 21, 108. Correct. Total of this will be fixed, and most important, fixed remains same everywhere. Right? Now, entire working which we have to understand and do will be only revolving around semi-variable. So again, we need to have a working note for the semi-variable. %70, 80%, 90%. Now see, interestingly, what they have done here is, in this sum, we need not do the detailed calculation what we did in the previous question. Reason, they have themselves given you the breakup. Now in this semi-variable power, they have said that 70% is variable, it means 30% is fixed. In this repairs and maintenance, 60% is fixed, it means 40% is variable. Correct? Now, pay attention. First is my power. Within power, variable, fixed, and total semi-variable. Then I have repairs and maintenance, variable, fixed, and total semi-variable. Now again, be careful. Don't haste. Don't try to complete more, because until unless you are clear, you may go wrong. So 2 lakhs is my cost at 80%. So I'm writing 2 lakhs here. Now, at this 80%, your breakup is 70% variable, 30% we are saying is fixed. So out of this 2 lakhs, 70% is variable, 30% is fixed. Correct? Similarly, for repairs and maintenance, total is 50. out of which at 80%, 60% is given as fixed. So total is 50, out of which 60%, that is 30,000 is fixed, and 40%, that is 20,000 will be variable. Now, once I've got this breakup, and this is not done by me, it is given in the question. So this type of question is easy for semi-variable because you are given in the bracket the breakup. The only thing you have to remember, I cannot apply the same breakup ratio at other levels. This is at 80%. So for other levels, I'll first copy the fixed cost as it is. And for variable, I'll use the same logic. At 80% this much, then 70% how much, 90% how much. Again, fixed costs I'll copy. And again, the same logic. At 80%, 20,000. So 70% how much? 90% how much? So you have to be careful. You have to be mindful. Neeraj, what are these answers dealing with? Can you tell me the figures which you have given? Okay. Total of power. I'm having different figures from Priyanshi. See, at 80% it is 1,40,000. Then how much it will be at 70%? Use your calculator. I'll also use. Chalo. So 1,40,000 divided by 80 multiplied by 70. So I'm getting 122,500. And then this total is 182,500. Correct? No? Same, 140 at 80. So here I'm getting 157,500. So this is 217,500. Correct? Good. Yes. Correct. Now same thing I'll do here. 20,000 for 80. Then how much for 70? It is 17,500. And how much for 90? It will be 22,500. So total of this will be my semi-variable cost. So here it is 182,500, 2 lakhs, 217, 47, 50, 52. Correct? Now, this is what I've computed. Now I'll find out my total overheads cost, which will be the total of all these totals. And then I have to divide it by my estimated labor hours to find out my overhead rate, which will obviously be per labor hour. So how? I'll divide both these figures. Numerator, there will be cost. Denominator, there will be hours. I'll get my overhead rate per hour. Correct? So give me firstly the total overheads cost at all the three levels. Estimated labor hours is 240 for 80%. So if it is 240 for 80%, how much it will be for 70? It will be 210. How much it will be for 90? It will be 270. So these are my estimated labor hours. Now find out the total overheads at all the three levels. Total cost. Now give me total overheads at all the three levels. So 577 is the first figure which Tanu has given me. I'm putting down. Others may cross-check and give your figures also, confirmation or amend. Almas has given me all the three figures, 623 and 669. 623 and 669. So students, y'all can cross-check. In the meantime, Almas, divide this and this. You'll get the overhead recovery rate at all the levels. Okay, good, Prem. Yes, Tanu, correct. Tanu, I am not getting this figure which you have given 438,500. What it is pertaining to, I don't know. Yes, Priyanshi, correct. Now give me the overhead rates. Divide your overheads by the labor hours. You get your overhead rates. Okay, so first answer is by Neeraj. It is 2.74, 2.59, and one more answer, 2.47. Correct. Two 2.75. Yes, Prem, correct. Almas, right. Others, please check, confirm, update. Is this perfect with all? Yes, Priyanshi, there is some rounding off. I have also just taken the figures which have been given. So yes, there may be slight variation because there is a rounding off. Please don't round off. Take at least up to 5 digits, which will be much, much precise and correct. Since I've just put down what is given to me, so it may be a rounding off, but don't do that. Right? Perfect. Now we go to another type of question. See, I've tried to take different types of questions so that you get an example of all variety. Now, the difference either is in the presentation of the question or the difference is in the manner of computing semi-variable. So in my first question, semi-variable was computed by that formula where we split variable and fixed, and then for different levels we computed. Second question was pretty easy because you were given the percentage, but what was very important, you cannot apply that percentage of variable, semi-variable split at all levels. You have to apply it at the given level, and for other levels, you will compute. Now, this third sum in this category is again slightly different in terms of its working. Let us see. So what does the question says? The following information relates to the production activities of Goodwish Limited for 3 months ending 31st December. So this data is of 3 months. Again, they have done the identification. So to that extent, our role is limited. So fixed, semi-variable, variable. So identification is done. What is required? It is noted that now they are giving some details for semi-variable. See, 3 types of semi-variable. First type was where on the basis of the 2 levels, we split the semi-variable into this. And then on this basis, we computed semi-variable. Second type was where they had given you some percentage as to how much portion is variable and fixed. So we use their bifurcation to find out our answers. So 70% was variable, 60% was fixed. We use this. Now in this third sum, there is something even different. This is a language adjustment for semi-variable. So this is the third type of semi-variable question. What it says, it is noted that semi-variable expenses will remain fixed between this range. Thereafter, it increases by 10% of the above figure, that is the figures which are given. Correct? Then what it says, and now this increase of 10% is between this range. So when your expenses are between this range, they increase by 10%. Then they increase by 15% again of the above figures. That is the figures what you have already above, when it is between the range of this. So this is the language adjustment for semi-variable. Then what it says, fixed expenses remain constant, whatever the level of activity may be. Sales at 80% is this much, at 90% is this much, at 100% is this much. So they have given you the sales. Now, assuming all items produced are sold, you have to prepare flexible budget at these levels of capacity, 60, 80, 100, right? Flexible budget. Now, this is, I will say, of income statement. Why? They are also having the figure of sales. So we can also compute our income statement. See, the sales are also given at different capacities. So here, when you are preparing your flexible budgets, you will compute the incomes, right? So levels. It is 60% level, 80% level. Particulars, correct? Now, their data is for 50%, correct? So first, we can write down sales. From that, we can deduct total cost divided into 3 categories. First is the fixed expense, then the semi-variable expense, and the now fixed. You have all this management salary, rent, and taxes, depreciation. I'm just writing short forms. Depre, sundry office. This will be total. Semi-variable, plant maintenance, labor, salesman salary, sundry. This will be total. And then variable, material, labor, salesman, commission. Again, total. And here, from sales, when I will deduct total cost, what I'll get is my net operating income. Correct? Now, sales is ready-made given. You don't have to do any workings. So sales at 60% is 2550. At 80% is given as, at 100% is 4250. Correct? Fixed, it will be as it is. Fixed will be as it is. I'm not writing down. I will copy the total because the total remains same at all levels. So 747 is the total. Correct? It will remain same. You all agree to this? 747. Right? Now, other two we have to compute, in which we'll first take up variable. Now these figures are given at 50%. At 50%, if variable is 6 lakhs at 50%, correct? So at 50, what is 6 lakhs? At 60, how much it will be? So it will be 720, correct? No? But 50%, what is 6 lakhs? At this, it will be 720. Okay, Almas has given me the answer. Thank you, Almas. Then it is 960 and 12 lakhs. 960, 12 lakhs. Now I'll go to labor. Labor at 50% is 640. At 50, it is 640. So how much it will be at 60%? So 128, 640. Is it 768? Okay, Almas says, yes, 768, 1024, and 1280. Yes, Prem, thank you. Then it is 95 at 50%. Correct? So 95 at 50%. It means it is 190 at 100%. And 190 means 19. So 95 plus 19 is 114. Am I correct? Yes. Almas has given me the answers 114, 152, 190. Yes, Prem, correct. Good. So this will give me my total variable. Simple. So see, fixed variable, it can be done conveniently, it can be done smoothly. Now our entire challenge, if I can use this word, will be semi-variable. Great. Almas has given me the total of variable also. I'm taking it. So Almas says 1602, 21, 36. 21, 36. and further she says 2670. Okay. Now, all our efforts are for semi-variable. Thank you, Priyanshi. Now for semi-variable, go back. What it says, between 40 and 70, it is constant. Now our present level is 50 only. So at present level, I'm just writing here so that I need not scroll it again and again above. So we are at 50%. So between 40 to 70, it is going to remain this only. So my semi-variable between 40 to 70 will be this. But it will increase by 10% between 70 to 85. So between 70 to 85% of capacity, it will go up by 10%. And then between 85 to 100, it will go up by 15%. Correct? But what is important to pay attention is 15% of what? It is 15% of the original figures. This is important. See here, language plays a role. It will be 15% of the original. So here I have to increase it by 15%, but of this figure only. See, language could have said that whatever this new figure has come, add 15 to that. That could also be a language. So that is purely dependent upon the question. And you have to be very mindful when you are reading the question. You have to be very precise. You have to be very patient. So for 70 to 85% level, this increases by 10%, this increases by 15%. Now, what are the levels where we are preparing? We are preparing, first level is 60%. For 60%, my expense would remain same. They will not change because this remains same up to 70%. So this is between 40 to 70%, this level. So for 60, I'll simply copy this. So I'll copy these levels or these expenses for 60%. Sorry. I'm writing in the wrong table. Twenty to 565. These are at 60%. Now, my next level is 80%. 80% means falling in this range where all these expenses will increase by 10%. Correct? So I'll increase it by 10%. 10% is 6250. This is 10%. Okay. Again by 10%. Correct? And then here it is by 15% of original. That is, of this only you have to increase by 15%, not of this. Be clear with the language. Yes, Almaz, I have the same answers. Correct. Now, 15%. But in this same amount, 60 to 500, you have to add 15. Not in this. Be clear with the question language. So I'm given one answer by Anil. Correct? Okay. Neeraj has given me totals. I'm for the timing writing out totals. 284,050. 83,375. 83,375. I'm writing down the answers posted by Prem. 74,750. And Neeraj had already given me totals, but Neeraj, you have given me 3 totals. I'm posting Neeraj totals. Others may check. 447 is this total given by Neeraj to me. Then it is 491,700, the second level. And then it is 514,050. Correct? Oh. So Mahalakshmi, what you have posted? I think you have posted profits, is it? But I don't think these can be profits. Do more. Now the final answer would be that sales minus each of these costs, variable, semi-variable, fixed, all these 3 costs, you get the final answer, which is your net profit. That is your net operating income. Correct? Give me the figures. Don't give me totals. Now give me profits. So Rohan has given me a loss, 246 or 60%. Okay. Give me other profit losses. So 246 is the loss at 60%. Yes. Okay. Priyanshi has given me all levels. 25,300. And 318,950. 18,950. So these are the final figures, students. Perfect. Great. So I hope students will have understood the flexible budget part also. So these are the different types of budgets which we are called upon to prepare, to answer. And I'm sure now with all these variety of sums, you will be in a position to address the different types of adjustments that are asked. Now, what is required to perfect yourself is the practice. So kindly do that. We will be connected. Yes, Anil has asked a question, sir. What is zero-based budgeting? See, zero-based budgeting is a concept, Anil. Normally, what happens? Budgeting is based on your past experience, as we discussed. So generally, when budgets are prepared, they are prepared taking past year's data as the base. So if let us say in the past year, I've spent 50 lakhs on my marketing. So this year, when I'm preparing my budget, I will assume 50 lakhs, which is because I'm taking the last year's figure as the base. So I'll assume that 50 lakhs will happen. And then I will say, okay, considering this year's condition, I'll spend 10 lakhs more. So I prepare my budget of 60 lakhs. So in regular budgeting, since we are taking past year's figures as the base, we don't have to give any clarification, justification for the past year figure. Only whatever we are changing, generally increasing, we have to justify that. So 50 lakhs, I'll say, okay, it was past year, so it will continue. I will be spending more 10 lakhs for this reason. Zero-based budgeting concept, which is more used in government sector because we are using public money. They say that don't assume anything. So even if you spent 50 lakhs last year, you have to even justify the 50 lakhs again because we are not allowing you any base. So this year you said that 60 lakhs is advertisement. In other cases, you would have said 50 lakhs we spent last year, so that is assumed. 10 lakhs only you justify that I'll do this extra, do that extra. But in case of zero-based budgeting, you have to justify entire 60 lakhs because we are not allowing you to take that as your justification that, okay, since I'm taking last year as the base, so that much is presumed, that much is justified. That is what is the concept of zero-based budgeting, that you have to justify each and every figure without taking any figure presumed on the basis of last year. This is clear? Super. So students, with this, we complete this whole chapter. But please, this is not the end. This is just the beginning to give you all the base, the foundation to launch. Right? See, feedback, feed forward. Yes, Anil, you're right. Now, Rohan is asking, sir, what is feedback and feed forward control? See, feedback is you do something, you get the feedback, and you take action. Feed forward is even without doing that, you take your actions to ensure that nothing goes wrong. Like, see, feed control is more in case of sensitive things like launching a satellite. Now you launch the satellite and then you say, oh, this went wrong and that is why my satellite launching failed. Your thousands of crore rupees will go waste. So there we use feed forward. That is, we are uh, analyzing what could be forward and then correcting beforehand. So like if my satellite is launched, when I'm launching, I'm also foreseeing what would be the next step. And if there is any deviation in the next step, I'll take corrective actions beforehand. That is feed forward control. Feedback is like normally it happens. You manufacture something, you get the data, you compare it with your standards, and then you say that, okay, this was correct, this was not correct. Next time I will change. That is feedback control. Correct? See, beta Priyanshi, I cannot say there is any idle time for this type of question. General rule is every mark is 1.8 minutes. Generally. But many times what happens, you are more smooth at some questions, so that may consume lesser time. You are not smooth at some questions, so that may take more time. So this is where you will have to be very selective. You have to be very calculative, but the average is 1.8 minutes per mark. Fine. Okay, students. Fine. Excellent. Priyanshi, but I said 1.8 minutes is the average. So you have to calculate the idle time for any sum by taking this average. But this may slightly vary depending upon the chapters. Where you are more strong, it may get reduced. You can take 1.5 as your basis for a calculation. If so the chapter is difficult for you, the calculations are slightly stringent, it may become 2 minutes. But on an average, it is 1.8 minutes per mark. Fine. And yes, you required more time because this was your first time. With practice, see, that is where we need practice. That is where I want you all to sit and solve and not simply watch what I'm solving, or not simply do calculations on calci and give me the figures, because then only you will develop the speed, will develop accuracy with the speed. Fine. So with this, students, signing off for today. Thank you very much. It was a great time with you all. Good engaging session. And I'm sure all these concepts are through with you all. But yes, we are always there at BOS for any support you need. So be in touch, and most important, keep studying, keep practicing. Thank you all. Thank you very, very much. Yes, sir. Done from my end. Thank you.